Well, here we are. A day that I genuinely didn't think we'd ever see. Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door has gotten an HD remake. It's real. It's a real thing. I've had to borderline pinch myself because seeing this insanely beautiful remake of one of my all-time favorite games has just been incredible. It literally feels like a fever dream. I mean, how often is it that you get something that you've always dreamt of? It's a really exciting time for the series right now. So many newcomers are getting to enjoy this masterpiece for the first time ever, and I'm getting so much joy seeing my Twitter timeline and my YouTube homepage flooded with Paper Mario related content. Maybe you've even seen mine. I recently did sort of a deep dive on the series discussing what I think truly makes a great Paper Mario game, so check that out if you'd like. Maybe it's the lack of other big game releases right now, or maybe it just goes to show what a landmark series Paper Mario is, but it sure does feel great seeing the whole internet's attention captured by something that is so near and dear to my heart. And so I wanted to join in on that excitement and talk a little bit about the absolute ball I've been having playing Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door for the Nintendo Switch. Just as a heads up, in order to keep this as spoiler-free as possible, I won't be discussing much of the main story past the prologue, minus one specific instance that I do believe deserves mentioning. The gameplay footage that I recorded will have multiple areas, but nothing that you might not have seen in gameplay trailers or what Nintendo hasn't shown. Our story starts off with a gorgeous pop-up book style cinematic showcasing the rise, fall, and rebuilding of the Thousand Year Door's central area, Rogueport. At some point, it became a town legend that an ancient treasure lies deep underground, well below Rogueport's streets and alleys. It's the rumors of this fabled treasure and the mysterious Thousand Year Door that kicks off our story, and ultimately what draws Peach and Mario to Rogueport. This introductory cutscene already makes it evident just how much of a visual upgrade we received with this entry. The GameCube version had static storybook images, while the updated visuals are animated and much more impressive. It's really funny, I don't know that Mario and Peach have ever been to a place as grimy and slimy and hostile as Rogueport. The streets are crawling with all kinds of ruffians and other troublemakers, and yet, despite the many wanted posters, graffiti, and rundown buildings, it still makes for such a charming and unique hub world for this adventure. I mean, I don't think that this would be on anybody's bingo card, but if seeing a noose in a Mario game was on yours somehow, you can go ahead and cross that one off too. I guess before we discuss the Thousand Year Door as a whole, we should go ahead and take a look at what's new with this remake, because at its core, it is still very much the Thousand Year Door. Of course, right off the bat, visually speaking, this game is absolutely stunning. I personally feel that the GameCube original has aged pretty well, but being several console generations later, I did expect this to look a fair amount better than the original game. Obviously. And yet, I still find myself surprised at how utterly gorgeous this version is. Each area is completely familiar and yet beautifully overhauled. All of the environments have a new sense of texture and so much more additional detail. I really like how many of the ground textures and UI elements have this canvas-like look to it. The lighting is so damn good on those dialogue boxes for no reason. A lot of the environmental pieces have taken on more of a papery cardboard aesthetic too. Check out these folds and flaps on Rogueport's curbs, etc. These additional details really elevate the Thousand Year Door's already visually interesting world. Take for example Petal Meadows. The wildflowers and wispy yellow grass are much more intricate and kind of gently sway in the breeze now, which really helps in making this area feel more alive. You can also interact with these types of elements now. Most of them are responsive to hammer swings, which makes them crumple up, and I think that's pretty neat. More than that though, the game's improved lighting is really what makes this remake shine. It is an absolute treat for the eyes. Everything has this almost reflective effect, but it truly makes for some gorgeous scenery, especially in the almost Technicolor boggly woods. Character models have also been visually tweaked. Rather than the flat, almost cartoon-like models from the original game, the characters are now all really layered. See how Koops' arms and shoes are kinda stacked on top of his body? It's especially apparent in Bowser too. Everyone now has this great sense of texture that almost gives them a thicker, cardboard-like appearance, but I really like this change. I think all of the models look substantially better for it. It kind of allows each piece of the model to move independently of one another, and each of their animations and movements are just more fluid for it. Now this is just a personal thing, but they've also ditched the really thick white paper border for each model that they've used in the past few Paper Mario games. I'm really happy to see that go. We know that they're paper, the border was just kind of distracting. In addition to that, almost every character has gotten brand new animations and expressions, and these are fantastic. I can't get over how much of an improvement this is. These varied poses and emotes paired together make some wonderful designs and allow each character to be far more expressive in cutscenes and dialogue. Koopy-Koo here cries now. Professor Frankly does that. Grubba is clearly really happy, but this extends to everyone. Even the toads like Zesty and shopkeepers have new expressions. This random Bubulber from Petalburg is just oozing with charm, and that proud face is just so adorable. In the GameCube version, each character really had two sprites, one for the left and one for the right. So even when moving in the three-dimensional space, they'd kind of just flip back and forth between looking left or right. This never bothered me or really even had me take notice to it. This was kind of just a Paper Mario quirk. But in the remake, they've given pretty much every character back sprites too. So now when you're running away from the camera, you can actually see the backs of these characters. And it's really interesting after all of these years to finally get the full view of what they all truly look like. Take these security guards in the Glitz Pit. Now you can know for certain that they're not armless and instead just keep their arms behind them. Even seeing your partners at new angles is just super novel to me. Yoshi's little trot looks adorable, seeing Goombella or Vivian's hair at new angles is nice, and you can even see all of the junk in Flurry's trunk. On top of this, both Mario's team and the enemies will do a little bring it on type pose as they lock in for battle. Such a sweet little detail. Overall, this is a relatively small change that goes a long way. It really enhances the personality of a game already overflowing with charm. Speaking of a small change that goes a long way and really enhances the personality of a game already overflowing with charm, they've added cute little voices for each character. These voices are almost one for one what they did in Banjo-Kazooie. They're little chopped up vocals that accompany each word as they appear. I'm not sure of many other games, if any, that utilize this, and it's just one of those features that's become incredibly iconic of the Banjo-Kazooie series. It works incredibly well here. So, rather than the same text-like sound of the original, each character has a distinct voice. Familiar characters sound pretty much how you'd expect. Peach has her typical high-pitched clips. Luigi's rambles certainly have that distinct Luigi flair now. And Bowser confidently growls his dialogue. Bob-ombs speak with that Super Mario 64-esque sound, and same goes for the Koopa Troopas. So retro! Of course, I think this goes even further for the characters that are exclusive to the Thousand Year Door. Some of the voices are a little different than you might expect, like Beldam's gruff and sinister voice, or seeing just how deep Lord Crumps is. Again, this isn't an inclusion that's game-changing by any means, but it certainly adds another layer of depth to each character, and it's something that I truly hope stays in all future Paper Mario games. I genuinely love this so much. In addition to the little voices, another change that you can hear is the music. All tracks have been completely reworked, and it's made for an incredible soundtrack. I've seen kind of a mixed reception to this online. A lot of people are talking down on the new soundtrack in favor of the originals. Luckily for them, they are covered because this game sells you this nifty little GameCube badge for 1 coin that will play all of the game's original music. And it costs 0 BP to equip too. Now, of course, like with anything, people are more than welcome to their opinions, but I've seen a ton of hate on the new music. Don't get me wrong, in a game with this much music, there have been certain tracks that I've preferred in the original release. I'm not sure if people are just nostalgia blind though, because this reworked soundtrack is unbelievable. A lot of it just sounds more high quality, and it incorporates more instruments and sounds for a much more layered and musically interesting sound. Some songs completely take on new life too. Like the Glitz Pit theme went from this to a much more traditional Japanese dojo type track. Rogueport's theme has gotten one of the biggest upgrades in my opinion. It's still very much the same track, but with a much bigger and more orchestral sound. I also love the fact that the battle theme remains the same, but it will have slight variations depending on the chapter or area. I love when games do that. Of course, those are just the surface level changes we've gotten with this remake. The game includes a number of great quality of life improvements too. Firstly, they added this nifty little partner wheel so you can quickly swap partners in the overworld. So rather than navigating the menu, all you have to do is quickly press L and spin until you get your desired partner. Bam. What a time saver. In addition to that, there's now a completely separate underground area with pipes that directly lead to each chapter's town. This is such a huge improvement. In the original, you had to remember exactly where in the sewers each pipe was and where it took you. And getting to those was kind of a chore. This streamlines the whole process and quickly gets you to wherever you need to be. Another little change I really like is when you have a full inventory. In the original, if you were full of items and got another, you'd have to throw away one before accepting the new item. But here, it at least gives you the option to consume one of the items you're holding to make room for the new item, rather than having to throw one away, pick it up, etc. Speaking of which, one of the biggest criticisms on the original Thousand Year Door was the backtracking that some chapters require. This was especially problematic in Twilight Town and Keelhaul Key. But I'm really happy to say that they've added pipes and springs that will quickly return you to the area that you're backtracking to or from, which effectively negates the backtracking issue altogether. I do think that this thoroughly shortened Chapter 4, but hey, I certainly can't complain about the game making my life more convenient. So backtracking, again, was one of the major complaints from the original Thousand Year Door. The main complaint I've seen with the HD remake is the frame rate. Look, I get it. Having a game run at 60 frames per second is such a luxury. And it's lovely when games run that smoothly. Hell, in some games, it's almost a requirement. Can you imagine playing competitive Smash Ultimate at 30 FPS? Luckily though, in a turn-based RPG, it is much less critical. It's understandable that people are upset that the original on the GameCube ran at 60 FPS, but the remake on more powerful hardware somehow doesn't. To be fair though, with Color Splash and the Origami King, we've kind of already been conditioned to play Paper Mario at 30 FPS. And in all honesty, this whole frame rate thing has been completely overblown. I've even seen some people refusing to buy the game because of this, which, look, I can't tell people how to spend their hard-earned money. But in my eyes, that's just kinda silly. This game is a masterpiece and runs at a rock-solid 30 FPS. It's not like it's consistently dipping into the low 20s or teens. So refusing to buy it is really just hurting them because they're missing out. But I will be honest, them refusing to buy it kind of really hurts my soul because we really need this game to sell well so that we get more Paper Mario games like this. But can't tell people how to spend their money. Anyway, I was wondering a little bit myself how halving the frame rate might affect combat and the action commands that require precise timing like Super Guard. And, well, I'd say it's pretty much a non-factor. I mean, I was already super guarding Lord Crump in the prologue, so... I do think if people gave it a chance, they'd probably see that they forget about the frame rate after, like, 5 minutes, honestly. Aside from all of that, though, one of the biggest changes is with Vivian's character. For years, Vivian has been the subject of debate. In Japan, the original GameCube release mentions that, despite Vivian presenting like a female character, they're actually a boy. In North America, no mention was made of Vivian's gender, and she was presumed to be female. In the Switch remake, though, Vivian herself states, "The truth is, it took me a while to realize that I was their sister, not their brother. Now their usual bullying feels heavier." That is in the clearest terms stating that Vivian is a transgender woman without physically saying that she's a transgender woman. Now, I love this change for multiple reasons. One, representation is awesome. I have many friends and family who are in the LGBTQ community, so seeing them get their own representation and being recognized in a Mario game of all things is pretty amazing. I fully support that. Two, it's more faithful to the original Japanese interpretation of her character. And three, I just think it makes for a better and more emotional story. I think it paints Vivian in an even more sympathetic light and makes the other two Shadow Sirens even more diabolical. This is a very small aspect of the story, so I do apologize for some of the minor spoilers there, but this is important and should be talked about. So now we've covered all of the shiny new things that make Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door on Switch feel new and fresh. I mentioned before that underneath all of the shiny new quality of life improvements and the stunning coat of paint that this game received, it's still very much Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door. I think that's one of my favorite things about this remake. You see, aside from improving Vivian's character, the game is incredibly faithful to the original release. For all intents and purposes, this is the same game. The same story, the same enemies, the same battle system, the same areas. You'll still be joining a WWE-inspired battle league in Glitzville, and you'll still be playing a Pikmin simulator with the Punies in the Boggly Woods. Returning players will have no issue jumping back into Rogueport and rediscovering those crystal stars, and of course, what ultimately lies behind that mysterious thousand-year door. The incredible and strategic turn-based battle system that you remember is still here. The experience points and level ups, oh yeah, they're here too. I could go on and on about why this is quite possibly the very best Paper Mario game, or even further, why it's one of the best Mario RPGs ever made. It absolutely nails every aspect of a great RPG and intertwines that with a unique art style, feeling of adventure, and a brilliant sense of humor that most other series just can't achieve. I truly cannot recommend this game enough. Now, I find myself saying this with every beautifully done remaster, whatever you want to call it. And it honestly just makes me a little hungry for more. How could you not see the lovely treatment that this game got and not want Paper Mario 64 remade? I will admit, I'm a little biased, and despite the Thousand Year Door having the best and most refined battle system in the series, I think Paper Mario 64 will always be my favorite. So naturally, I am dying to have that be remade at some stage too. At first, I was a little surprised we got this remade because, when you think about it, Paper Mario 64 would undoubtedly benefit more from a visual update than Thousand Year Door would. But that game was essentially trapped on the GameCube and pretty inaccessible. At least fans and newcomers alike of Paper Mario 64 had various means of playing it through the years. The Wii Virtual Console, the Wii U Virtual Console, and even now on the Nintendo Switch Online service. The initial sales numbers have come out, and it looks like Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door is selling pretty well. At this point, it's already outperformed the initial launch of Color Splash and the Origami King, which makes me super excited for what's to come. Since its launch, Nintendo has been sending out another survey asking about partners, unique characters, RPG elements, and story. I would love to fill one out, but unfortunately, I was never sent one. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. Will Nintendo listen to us? Will this sell strongly? Will we get a new Paper Mario game that is much more like this one, which I think we can all agree is what a vast majority of the fans really want? We're gonna have to wait and see. So that is gonna do it for me today, guys. I have absolutely been loving my time with Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door, and it has been such a joy to play through again, especially with all those improvements. If you're still watching this video and somehow are still on the fence, please go out and buy this game. You will absolutely love it. You will not be disappointed. It's a wonderful game from start to finish. It has addictive combat, it'll make you laugh, potentially even cry, and it'll have you wanting to do it all over again. It's just a special kind of game. I think that this is one that truly leaves a mark on everyone's heart who plays this one. What'd you guys think though? Did you love this remake as much as me? What do you think of the new features? Are you digging the new soundtrack, or are you not feeling it? Any thoughts at all you have on the game, leave in the comment section below. I do get back to all of my comments, and I've been loving the dialogue on my previous couple videos, so keep that coming. If you've made it all the way to this point, genuinely thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up button and make sure you hit subscribe so you're in the know for my next upload. I'm going to be making much more content moving forward, so please subscribe and stay tuned for that. I will have the Gregosaurus Instagram and Twitter links at the very end of this video, so if you'd like to follow me there, please do. I'm pretty active on Twitter. So thank you guys so much again for watching. Go play some Paper Mario and be good. Bye-bye.